Welcome to the RideShare Guy podcast, where you will learn about the rideshare and mobility industry straight from Harry Campbell, who's got over 5 years experience covering the industry and has talked to thousands of drivers. There's no better place to stay up to date, entertained, and educated. So let's dive in.
So James Heller is the CEO and founder at Wrapify, the platform that pays gig drivers to advertise on the road while giving brands the ability to be where they want anywhere in the United States. In 2017, he was the featured honoree for the Forbes 30 Under 30 for marketing and advertising because of the innovation brought to the out-of-home advertising space, also known as OOH. He initially funded the company by cashing out his 401k, selling cars, and putting his entire savings into the startup. Wrapify has since gone on to raise $10.6 million in venture capital. He loves speed, building stuff, blowing shit up, technology, and the gig economy. So James, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat. And I think, we had lunch recently. And I think one of the things, I don't know if I always knew this about you, but I feel like I discovered, or maybe we both discovered at lunch, that we've both been in the gig economy for a while, maybe about the same amount of time. When did Wrapify first get started?
It became a glimmer in my eye in like 2015
Okay.
was when we incorporated, and 2016 was like our first full year of business.
Got it. So that's actually very similar timing to me. I started the RideShare Guy in 2014 and, kind of got things rolling in 2015. But, you guys were one of the first to basically really get into the more broadly, sort of out-of-home advertising space, and especially when it comes to gig economy. And, we could probably spend a whole podcast talking about your history and how you got here. But I want to start with a question because I think this is interesting. Like a lot has changed since then. Most people don't make it this long in rideshare years. So obviously you guys are doing something right. What's the biggest thing that's changed since you started the company back in 14, 15, 16?
There's really two sides of our marketplace, if you will, the driver side and also the brand side. I think the biggest thing that's changed is adoption of the media format as a whole. I think that it just takes a certain amount of time in market to get a media product to be adopted by the agencies and brands that leverage it.
Yeah.
That's a really difficult fight, and you have to bring media measurement to the centerfold, and we're one of the first to do that for stuff that moves in the outdoor advertising space.
Interesting. So, outdoor advertising, there's always been things like billboards. There's always been, I guess, I'm thinking like the guys on the side of the road. What do you consider in, like, let's go broad, out of home advertising or whatever you call it, and then we'll move into specifically what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so out of home is really an ad placement that appears outside of one's home. So it could be, billboards are the most prominent, the thing that usually characterizes out of home. So the billboards, transit media, bus side advertising, taxi top, transit shelters, rail. There's a bunch of different subcategories of out of home. And what we're doing in the ride share and food delivery space in the gig economy is another subcategory within the out-of-home space.
Got it. So what makes this subcategory so unique? Obviously, you've started a company, raised over $10 million, and sounds like you've got some pretty good traction. What do you think makes it so unique? And obviously, you talked about billboards, but what was the term you used? Transit, moving, or something like that?
So yeah,
I like that.
There are several things that move in the out-of-home space, and what makes Wrapify really unique is we're one of the first truly measurable media platforms in the out-of-home space. Gotcha. All the way through, not just impressions, counting how many people saw it or how many people had the opportunity to see it, but what did the folks that were exposed to this media actually do, whether it's online conversion, in-app conversion, footfall into a physical environment like a retail store or a stadium. Those are first to market. Those are first to market aspects of the media that we brought to out-of-home. The other thing that's really unique about it, just at a macro level, is we're not inventory constrained like traditional media in the out-of-home space. So typical billboard advertiser has a certain number of sticks in the ground, whereas we have virtually unlimited inventory. And today we have about 500,000 drivers on the platform nationwide. Wow. The recall is what makes it also very unique. It's nascent. It's not normal to see 10, 15, 20, 50 vehicles in your neighborhood branded. And then also like that stuff triggering digital. That's a very, very nuanced and pretty unique to Wrapify.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned too something, I guess as a publisher myself, one thing that, I'm always trying to, obviously there's the more traditional side of advertising, things like clicks and CPMs. And, if I'm trying to advertise to someone, I might be talking more about, I guess there's other metrics now these days. We've done campaigns where people have asked us to fill out, all these archaic spreadsheets and this and that. I'm like, this isn't really the type of campaign we're doing. So I think you're onto something that it's almost like, you could have had the greatest idea here and it could have been the perfect product market fit, but it takes some time to get, traditional advertisers that are used to doing it certain ways. And especially, I'm sure the ones with really big budgets to sort of like get used to it, get over the novelty of it, get the hang of it. And, was there anything that you did to accelerate that? Or was it just sort of, stick around for 7, 8, 9 years?
I think bringing attribution to this segment of things that move in the out-of-home space, that was really a big driver for brand and agency adoption. But persistence is really a huge piece of it. I mean, time in market and being in market and continuing to serve some of the largest brands on the planet, it creates trust on both sides, on both the brand side and the driver side of our business.
Gotcha. And, I won't turn this into a whole advertising podcast and attribution, but I am curious. I know you've done a few good interviews on this actually that I've seen before, so I might link to some of those if people want the nitty gritty details. But how do you do attribution in something like this? I'm, on the side of the road, or I see one of the Wrapify ads and, looks cool, looks awesome, very unique, like you said. How you get that attribution?
Yeah, at a very high level, the way it works is the Wrapify platform uses the background location data we source from the drivers because they're all using the Wrapify app.
Gotcha.
So that geospatial data is used to aggregate audience, people who are within a viewable radius of each one of these vehicles. And we create basically two different, there are two different samples. So we have a sample of the exposed in market, and we have a sample of what we call control. And so, each one of those audiences grows at the same value, and we take that sample and we compare it against exposed versus control. It's an age-old attribution methodology, so exposed versus control, and then we measure that against a pixel that fires on the brand's website, postback that we pull from the brand's app, or footfall that we measure in each one of the retail store locations, stadiums, movie theaters. Depends on obviously what type of brand it is, but when they want to measure footfall, we can do that as well.
Very cool. Very cool. No, that's interesting. So give us a sense and, I guess scale of and size of the company today. We talked about some numbers. You raised $10.6 million, have 500,000 drivers. It sounds like you're operating nationally and doing lots of campaigns, it sounds like.
Yeah. So we're live nationwide. We have a ton of drivers on the platform. I think that the thing that's really cool about this year going into 2023 is, this is really like, I'd say the more mature stage of Wrapify. Like, I feel like we're no longer, we've lost our innocence as a startup, and now we're like a real business with like some really, really huge clients. And now it's building out the management team. The team's grown. We're now touching 25 employees, we'll probably be north of 30 employees by the end of the year.
Wow, cool.
So yeah, we're, and we've always focused on being, we've always focused on being, as refined as we can when it comes to just operating. We're not the type of business that's going to go out and raise $100 million and try to scale and grow as fast as possible. It's always been about responsible, scalable growth.
Yeah, so I think I saw on LinkedIn or socials, you guys just hired a VP of marketing. So congrats on that. Seems like the team is doing well, expanding. I guess marketing, I'm assuming, is an important part of your business too, right?
It's pretty important. It's the one that's the most near. It's a department that's the most near and dear to my heart because I'm a marketer by trade. So that was a really, really exciting hire for me.
Yeah, very cool. Well, congrats to Valerie on that. I haven't met her yet, but look forward to chatting with her and working with her. So for those, I probably should have done this at the beginning, but I'm so familiar with your model. What is the basic model of Wrapify? I think it's somewhat straightforward, but talk a little bit about how the basics works, how a campaign might work, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So the way Wrapify works is if you're a rideshare driver and you're interested in advertising on your vehicle, you have to download the Wrapify app. So we're available on Android and iOS. We use your background location data to match you with campaigns. So once you drive, I think an average of 50 miles, and we keep that rolling average going.
Yeah.
We use that as like a snapshot of where you're typically driving, and then that's what we use to match you to campaigns.
Gotcha.
So if and when a campaign is available in your area, you'll get pushed a notification to your mobile device that there's a campaign available. If it's a brand that you want on your vehicle, if it meets up with your satisfaction levels of what you want on your vehicle, you will opt into it. You go through a background check, no different than like an Uber or Lyft style background check through our app. And then we schedule a wrap install. And then once you get your vehicle wrapped, you start earning money on a per mile basis. And our average drivers earn anywhere from $200 to $400 a month. And in some cases, and this is something that I think we haven't done a good enough job of talking about, but we have other ways of earning on the platform. And I think the most important to drivers is Swarm. Swarm is a feature that allows drivers to earn even more than their nominal driving data by driving around specific locations at specific times. So it's all opt-in. You don't have to do any Swarm. But if we've seen drivers make north of $1,000 in a month because of the volume of Swarm that they've done.
Got it. So this would be literally, I take a break from doing Uber and Lyft rides and just technically drive for Wrapify in the areas and the times, or can I try to do rides, but I got to stick in a certain area?
We've seen drivers. Again, like gamification and making it so drivers can earn the most by being in the right place at the right time is a big focus. But we don't see drivers necessarily turn off Uber and Lyft. In fact, if anything, they're going to those areas and doing rides.
Got it.
So for example, if it's a Swarm that's focused on an event, usually the airport and the event center are within the Swarm region, and so you're able to,
that's cool.
you're able to continue to maximize.
Yeah, so I guess obviously depending on how big the swarm area is, you can, increase your chances of, double dipping basically, right? Like you said, which, gig drivers love maximizing their income. And I think also Uber is releasing a lot of cool features now where you can actually set your area preference. So this might be something to keep an eye on because, if it lines up with a swarm, for example, Uber's only sending you rides in certain areas, so you won't even have to leave. And then the other feature that they could use is a destination filter. You might set it at the edge of the swarm and, just sort of keep going back and forth basically in that. So the swarm is cool. And, you kind of preempted me by talking about how much the drivers earn. So I appreciate that because that's always important to the drivers, right? What sets the earnings? Is it sort of, how much you're driving per mile? Do some campaigns, it's just like, hey, this advertiser has a lot more money, they're willing to pay more, or, what kind of goes into the pay there?
I mean, there are several different components of driver pay, but the main component is per mile basis.
Gotcha.
And there's an algorithm that prices the mile dynamically based on time of day, traffic flow, other environmental factors. So, I mean, long and short, if it's an area where it's, it's daylight, there's lots of people, you're not moving super fast, high value mile. If you're out in the middle of nowhere at 3 in the morning and it's dark, low value mile. So, I mean, those are like two extremes. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the averages, drivers are typically, and it depends on also the wrap type.
Right.
So, the more of your vehicle is covered, the more you get paid per mile, the less you get paid per mile. But you're typically looking at, regardless of wrap type, you're typically looking at anywhere from a few $100s a month. And then if you participate in Swarm, and if there are, and we also provide opportunities for driver bonuses and things like that. So there's a lot of different ways to maximize your earnings with Wrapify.
Yeah. How long do the campaigns typically last?
Great question. So our average campaigns are typically in the 4 to 12 week range.
Okay.
One of the cool things about Wrapify from a brand perspective is brands have the ability to extend campaigns. So when a campaign extension becomes available, that means you have the opportunity to see that biweekly direct deposit continue. So yeah, I mean, but typically 4 to 12 weeks is an average campaign duration on our platform.
Very cool. And I mean, I know, one thing we always talk about in the gig economy is that there is a lot of variation. So, I appreciate you sharing some of those income numbers, and I'm sure that it does vary, some drivers making more, some less. I'm going to take a guess that, our bigger cities, do they tend to have more campaigns, better earning opportunities, sort of similar with Uber and Lyft, or how does it vary geographically?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the more challenging components of just what we have to message to drivers, because yeah, there are markets where we won't see very much campaign activity, and it's not because Wrapify doesn't want drivers on campaigns. Like if it was up to us, we'd have campaigns on the road in every market all the time. But the reality is we are beholden to the advertisers and the agencies that support those brands, and they launch campaigns in the markets where they want to. So long and short, bigger major metropolitan areas typically have more campaign activity because that's where more brand budget is spent. That being said, one of the big use cases for Wrapify is the fact that we can be in places where there is no or very limited traditional out-of-home inventory. So we actually do see Wrapify campaigns in places that are not necessarily those tier 1 DMAs all the time. So that's another just kind of cool use case.
So what type of drivers participate in these campaigns? I mean, obviously, I always tell people rideshare drivers, believe it or not, they drive a lot. They put 1,000 miles a week on their car if they're full time. Do you have a lot of rideshare, a lot of delivery drivers? Are there just normal, everyday commuters that are also using your service?
I mean, we serve all of the above, but I would say the most prominent use case for Wrapify today is rideshare and food and grocery delivery.
Gotcha.
And as you know, a lot of those drivers are doing all three of those services, or at least two of them. So it's truly a bolt on to your gig work is really how we like to characterize it.
Got it. And is that mainly because they're just putting so many miles on their car?
Yeah, they're already on the road. We're helping them make essentially passive revenue by doing the miles and driving that they already drive.
Yeah. Are there any downsides for the driver? I mean, I guess I imagine, like you said, some drivers, they may not want to wrap their car, period. Other drivers might only want specific campaigns. So what are the expectations that you sort of tell people that are either signing up or looking for campaigns?
I think that, it's if you don't see a campaign right when you sign up, don't get discouraged. It really is dependent on campaign activity that's set by the advertisers and brands that want to run with us. So be patient. We are looking at and we are launching some new features within the driver app to help drivers make more money on the road or save money on the road. So that's another really cool thing that we're about to be launching.
Got it. What are some of those features, or can you go into details there?
Yeah. So at a high level, we're launching a new feature within the driver market or within the driver app called the Wrapify Driver Marketplace. And it's a place where we're curating ways for gig drivers daily to make more money on the road or save money. So other opportunities in the gig economy, as well as offers that are exclusive to Wrapify drivers to save money for different services like insurance, fintech platforms, etc.
Got it. I mean, I know one thing that's a popular complaint right now in the gig economy is obviously gas prices. And, I know that there's companies out there that, help you save on gas and all that. And, actually, I imagine that right now, I think I've seen even some articles talking about, now's a great time to wrap your car with Wrapify, basically, because hey, gas prices are up, expenses are up. So it's like you got to look for alternative ways to make more money, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen a bump in your numbers from when gas prices go up or anything like that?
What's interesting there is while it seems like there would be a logical progression of more drivers signing up, we haven't really seen a significant jump. I mean, it's definitely, I'd say driver acquisition costs are probably a little lower today than they've been historically, but we're not seeing like a huge pop in drivers. I mean, we've been onboarding hundreds of new drivers a day, and that's stayed pretty consistent. I think what's changed is the quantity of drivers that are already on the platform and their willingness to move forward with a campaign. So the timelines for getting campaigns launched seems to be truncated a little bit. That makes sense.
Yeah. So why is it, do you think, I mean, because this is one thing we always hear in the gig economy, right? Obviously, a lot of people, they might complain about their earnings or say that they don't make enough. But I feel like, one of the things we always try to highlight are these ways to make additional cash or, on the expense side to save additional cash. And it does seem like people like hearing about those and reading about it, but they don't always necessarily take action, right?
Yeah, you got to take action. I mean, the thing that's cool about Wrapify is unlike other gig platforms, you're not having to go do an additional gig task aside from getting your vehicle wrapped on the road and keeping the Wrapify app on your phone for the duration of the campaign. Like it's pretty passive, and it's leveraging driving that you're already doing.
Yeah, and I guess some of my listeners may not know, but I actually use Wrapify myself to wrap my car for the Curbivore conference. So I'm a user of Curbivore or of Wrapify. I got my car wrapped as a driver, and I did a bunch of videos about my experience, and they're actually very popular. There's a lot of interest because I was at the shop with actually the guy's name who wrapped my car was Gato, like cat in Spanish, and he was a good character to be in my videos, and so we went through that whole process, and I have to say, like, the wrap came out looking really good. It was like very eye-catching, and everywhere I went, people were looking, people were talking about it when I was sharing. So I think there's definitely something there, like you said, about just like, I don't know what it is, like what do you think makes it so viral, or what do you think makes it so cool?
Nielsen rated this segment out of home, so wrap vehicles, as the highest recall of anything that moves. And it's cool to see like an authority in media measurement put that in a study, but like it's kind of obvious to me. It's not normal. When was the last time you saw? When was the last time you saw like a bunch of wrapped vehicles in a pretty small locale, like or in a very confined area? It's just not. It's nascent. So you have a recall driver because it's nascent. You also have the fact that there's a human there. Like it's not a billboard where there's just a board that's completely passive. You can't go talk to the billboard, right?
Yeah.
Or like you will hop out of your car, somebody could be like, "Hey, what's up with this on your vehicle?" And you could have a conversation about it. So there's I think that the human element, it's more personal.
Yeah, and it was cool for me to try it out firsthand. I thought the actual process of going down to a shop, near my house, and they wrap it in a few hours, and then taking it off is actually really fast. I probably could have, I don't know if you recommend it, but I could have probably taken it off myself. I took it to the shop to get it taken off, but it seems like I probably could have peeled it off myself in about 5 or 10 minutes.
It is simple, but we really like having drivers go to the install shop to have it removed, just purely for paint safety. We can validate that the installer who is certified on our platform, we actually have our own wrap certification that's on top of 3 industry certifications. When they do it, it's being done right. You can do it wrong you can damage your own vehicle if you do it wrong. So it's one of the reasons for why we stress the wrap removals, and why we also stress that the paint has to be OEM and not non-OEM paint.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think one of the common sort of, I guess you would say, not pitfalls, but one of the common reasons I heard from drivers, going through this process, they said that they might not want to do it is because they were worried about damaging their paint. So it sounds like as long as you've got OEM sort of factory paint and you go to one of the installers, you're sort of, obviously you guys have worked pretty closely with them to solve any potential issues there.
Well, not only that, this is another big differentiator between Wrapify and others in the space. We actually co-developed a wrap film for this use case with Avery Dennison. So it's a wrap film that's spec'd for these really short duration installs and removals, and it's exclusive to Wrapify.
Got it. Yeah, no, and I know I had a Tesla Model Y and I got it wrapped. So obviously I think that's put in a pretty good car and a good paint job. There was a bit of a sticky residue afterwards when they removed mine, and they said that happens once in a while. And then once we got the detailer to come out, they were able to get it out. So the only other thing that I wasn't the biggest fan of, that, when you cover the back window, it was a little hard to see out. So like you said, right, certain campaigns cover different areas of the car, right? Like when I covered my back window, it was kind of hard to see out. And I know I've seen a couple other drivers. Do you think that's something that is just kind of like depends on the car, or like you said?
It really does depend on the car. All our wrap options include a rear window perf. So it's a perforated film that's designed to be transparent,
a little more see-through.
I think that sometimes the angle of the glass, so the more angled the glass, the more difficult it is for light to pass through.
Yeah.
So
that
the
makes
flatter
sense,
the glass,
I have a pretty angled back window. So if it's flat, it's a lot easier to see through. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that's too, like, I think that's good advice for drivers, right? Because obviously, you want to be able to see out your back window. So the flatter, sort of the better visibility you might have. So, I enjoyed the process, and I think, we're always looking for ways for drivers to earn more money. And I think this is kind of like a no-brainer. The thing I love is that, like I think you said it, you kind of get paid for doing something that you're already doing. It's literally no additional work. So I'm really excited to bring this to more drivers and get the word out. What's something we should look forward to from you guys? We talked about the driver marketplace. Sounds like you guys are growing and getting bigger on the campaign side. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap here? No pun
Yeah,
intended.
make sure to keep the Wrapify app updated. The driver marketplace will be launching here in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. We are putting some pretty significant effort into making sure that the offers and the discounts that you see in the driver marketplace are curated and specific to Wrapify drivers. So it's not just a bunch of people that are trying to sell Wrapify driver stuff, but actually providing real value and ways for you to earn more money and save more money on the road.
Yeah, very cool. Well, that might be a nice while you're waiting for the perfect campaign, you've got some options and things to peruse there. Are there any markets that you want to call out specifically where you sort of have a large number of campaigns, or you need drivers off the top of your head, or is it nationwide like you mentioned?
It really is nationwide, and that answer today is different than that answer tomorrow, and different than that answer next week.
Very cool. Well, if folks want to learn more about Wrapify, if they want to sign up as a driver, should they? I see the website. We'll put in the show notes, Wrapify.com, or download the app. Where would you like them to go?
Downloading the app is definitely the best place because all of the FAQs are in the app. To learn about campaigns, you need to have the app on your phone. So driver communication is also done all through the Wrapify app. But otherwise, go to Wrapify.com and you learn all kinds of things about Wrapify there.
All right, cool, James. Well, appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll be sending you some drivers your way very soon, if not already, and excited to help you keep on making drivers more extra money.
Thanks, Terry. Really appreciate it.